My parents, three older sisters, three older brothers, and myself used to live in Rocky Comfort, Missouri. My parents, my three older sisters, and two of my older brothers moved into this house in either 1993 or 1994. This was before my other older brother and myself were born. The house I am writing about was located on South Main Street in Rocky Comfort. It was a two-story blue farmhouse with a large yard. The owner of the property owned acres around the house and had cattle. The stories I am going to share here have been told to me by my mom. All of these stories are 100% true. Whether or not you choose to believe them is up to you. You would hear people and children playing upstairs. If you went upstairs, nobody would be up there. You would hear children playing with basketballs, bouncing them around. This would be heard when no living children were in the house. Then one day my mom heard it again, so she went and looked. My siblings and I had basketballs to play with. That day my mom caught the basketballs bouncing, and no living kids were at the house. One day my mom went upstairs to pick up things out of the floor to be able to mop. After picking things up, she went back downstairs. A little while later, she went back upstairs to mop. What she saw next was shocking. The things she picked up were back where they belonged. Something had taken things off the wall and placed them on the bed in place of what my mom had originally laid on the bed. Another story is as follows. My mom and sometimes one or more of my siblings would hear a piano being played upstairs. We have never owned a piano. My mom later found out that before we moved into the house, when the house was empty with nobody living in it, people would walk by the house and hear a piano. Another time, the piano was heard while we lived in the house. It was on Halloween. A piano was again heard upstairs. Kids would not trick-or-treat our house because they said the house was creepy. I have one last story that I am going to share here. My mom, two of my older sisters, and my three older brothers were at home. My mom decided to have a yard sale. My last older brother was born in 1996, and I was born in 1999. This yard sale was before I was born, so it was sometimes between 1996 to 1999. Anyway, this yard sale ran for 2 days. The first day, an old man pulled up in a fancy-looking old car. A car probably from the 1950s or 1960s, if not earlier. This old man got out and stood in one spot and sort of glanced at the yard sale items. Finally, he started talking to my mom. He never told her his name. He said, "Ma'am, I used to live here when I was younger." Then he asked if he could look around the outside of the house. So my mom and siblings walked around and was talking to him. He said the house was a lot smaller when he lived there as a boy. He continued walking and was at the back of the house and looked up in a window. He saw something in the window. Then he hurried and got away from the window. He said that was a bedroom back in the day. This old man talked some more, talking about when he lived there, his parents and siblings. He asked if he could come back and have a look around the inside of the house. My mom told him that he could. Then he got in his car and left. My mom and siblings watched him leave. He turned his head and watched my mom and siblings as he drove away. My mom watched him continue down the road towards the flea market in Rocky Comfort. He turned into the driveway leading into the flea market. The next day, my mom and some of my siblings walked down to the flea market. Back then, you could go to the flea market and buy a can of soda. My mom got to talking to the owners of the flea market. She asked the lady if an old man in a fancy old car was there yesterday. The lady said that no man matching that description was at the flea market the previous day. My mom and the lady kept talking about it. My mom was told by the flea market owners that the description did match someone who used to live in our house as a boy. However, the owners told us that the man was dead. The old man never showed back up at our house. My mom said my siblings talked about that old man and how strange the whole experience was for a long time after that. A lot of experiences happened in that house. The ones I have shared here are a few of those experiences. The owner of the property was an old man. He ended up passing away, and his daughter ended up with the land and house. So we ended up having to move in 2006. She gave us a very short amount of time to move. Shortly after we moved, we drove back by the house to see what had become of it. The daughter of the owner had ended up having someone come in and bulldoze the house down. Now all that is left on the property is a few barns, farm buildings, lots of acres of land, and the empty yard where the house once stood. I'm going to attach a photo of the house that was taken while we were living in it. My family lived in the house from 1993 or 1994 until May of 2006.